The crowd was electrified, a nervous tension humming through the air. It wasn't just another fight. It was a collision of two worlds, two legends from vastly different arenas, each known for their brutal power and unshakable will to win. Mike Tyson, the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, a name synonymous with raw, explosive force and unmatched aggression. Across from him, Alex Pereira, a phenomenon in his own right, a master of the striking game with the kind of power that could send the most seasoned fighters to the canvas in a heartbeat. The world had never seen a match like this, and everyone was wondering one thing: who would reign supreme when the past and the future of combat sports collided? Mike Tyson's story was already legendary. He became the youngest heavyweight champion in history at just 20 years old, overwhelming his opponents with a ferocity that no one had ever seen before. His reign as a dominant force in boxing was a testament to his speed, power, and fearlessness. But after his fall from grace and a long, turbulent career, Tyson's name had somewhat faded from the spotlight. That was until his resurgence, drawing attention once again with his recent public workouts, offering glimpses of the fierce fighter who had once ruled the ring. Even as time had passed, Tyson's legacy was cemented in history, and his reputation as a fearsome knockout artist remained intact. Alex Pereira, on the other hand, was a force of nature in the world of mixed martial arts and kickboxing. The Brazilian powerhouse was known for his brutal knockout power, especially in his striking game. What set him apart from many others was his ability to deliver a precise and devastating blow, much like Tyson in his prime. But Pereira's rise was built on his incredible precision and calmness in the heat of battle, delivering destruction with almost eerie efficiency. His knockout of Israel, Adesanya, a win that secured him the UFC middleweight title, solidified his position as one of the most dangerous men in combat sports. Pereira's striking was unlike anything the sport had seen, a blend of raw power and flawless technique that left his opponents gasping for air before they even knew what hit them. The idea of these two fighters, Tyson, the heavyweight legend, and Pereira, the rising force of the UFC, facing off, was the stuff of fantasy. What would happen when the two most dangerous strikers from different eras met in the same ring? Would Tyson, with his years of experience and overwhelming power, still have the fire to stand toe-to-toe with someone as fierce as Pereira? Or would Pereira's modern techniques and deadly precision overwhelm Tyson, much as he had done to so many others in his meteoric rise? It wasn't just a battle of strength or speed. It was a battle for supremacy, a clash of icons that would determine who really ruled the world of combat. But what made this fight even more intriguing was the timing. Tyson was no longer in his prime. His age and years of hard-fought battles had taken their toll. Yet, there were moments when you saw flashes of his former self, those same devastating hooks, those quick jabs that could break through any defense. His resilience was undeniable, and you could tell he had something left to prove. Meanwhile, Pereira was in the prime of his career, with a hunger to cement his place as one of the greats. He wasn't just fighting for legacy. He was fighting for respect, to show the world that he belonged with the legends. As the fight approached, the world was divided. Some said Tyson had lost too much over the years to stand a chance against a young, hungry Pereira. Others believed Tyson's raw power and unpredictability would be enough to overwhelm Pereira, whose reliance on striking might leave him open to Tyson's unorthodox and devastating punches. The tension was unbearable. Every fight fan, from casual viewers to die-hard aficionados, was on the edge of their seats, eager to see how this legendary clash would unfold. And then the night of the fight arrived. The atmosphere in the arena was charged with anticipation, the air thick with the promise of something unforgettable. Tyson entered the ring first, his iconic black shorts and tattooed face giving the crowd a glimpse of the champion who had once terrified the boxing world. His eyes, though older, still held that familiar intensity, focused, calculating, ready to strike. Pereira's entrance was no less imposing, his calm demeanor betraying the explosive energy that lay beneath the surface. As he stepped into the ring, you could almost feel the electricity crackling through the air. The fight was about to begin, and no one could predict what would happen next. The bell rang, and the first exchanges were explosive. Tyson came out swinging, eager to make a statement, while Pereira calmly assessed, looking for an opening. Tyson's punches came fast and furious, each one a potential knockout blow. Pereira, however, seemed to glide with ease, his head movement and footwork keeping him just out of range. It was clear that both fighters respected each other's power, but it was also clear that only one of them would leave the ring victorious. But then, just as Tyson seemed to gain momentum, Pereira unleashed a brutal counterstrike that nearly sent Tyson to the canvas. The crowd gasped in shock. Had Tyson finally met his match? The tension was palpable, the stakes higher than ever before. With every round, the fighters seemed to push each other to their limits, but neither willing to back down. The fight was turning into something much more than a contest of strength and skill. It was a battle of wills, and no one knew who would break first. And as the final moments of the fight drew near, the question that lingered in every fan's mind remained unanswered. Could Tyson defy the odds and prove that he still had what it took to defeat the rising star of MMA, or would Pereira's youth and precision be too much for the aging legend? Only time would tell, but the suspense was unbearable. With every second that passed, the fight reached new levels of intensity. And just when it seemed like the end might be near, something happened that no one expected. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, eyes glued to the ring, as Tyson shook off the hit that had nearly sent him reeling. It was the type of moment that would have broken most men, but not Mike Tyson. With a defiant roar, he pushed forward, his head down, fists flying with a fury that only a true legend could summon. The arena buzzed with excitement, unsure whether they were witnessing the twilight of Tyson's career or the final chapter of a mythic story. Pereira, though visibly shaken, didn't flinch. His composed demeanor was a testament to his training, but there was something more in his eyes now, an awareness that Tyson's heart, despite his age, still burned like an inferno. The moment had shifted, and it was no longer just about technique or strategy. It was about survival. As Tyson closed in, he seemed to be getting stronger, his punches coming with the kind of power that made even the most seasoned fighters question their will to continue. But Pereira wasn't backing down. Instead, he adapted, his footwork becoming more calculated, his strikes more deliberate. This was no longer a fight. It was a chess match between two masters of their craft. Then, just when it seemed like Tyson had the upper hand, something changed. It was subtle at first, just a slight shift in Pereira's stance, but it was enough to make Tyson hesitate. Was it a feint? Or was Pereira setting him up for something bigger? Tyson, for all his experience, couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that the moment he had been waiting for might slip away from him. He threw another punch, but Pereira was gone, a blur of movement, as he evaded with a grace that defied his size. The crowd gasped as Pereira suddenly appeared behind Tyson, his left leg sweeping through the air in a devastating kick aimed directly at Tyson's ribs. The sound of impact echoed through the arena, sending a shockwave of disbelief across the crowd. Tyson staggered, his breath escaping him as he fought to stay on his feet. It wasn't just a simple blow. It was the kind of calculated strike that could break an opponent's spirit. Tyson had been knocked down before, but this was different. This was a fighter who knew how to exploit every weakness, and Pereira had just found his opening. Tyson, gasping for air, tried to shake off the pain. His instincts screamed at him to go on the offensive, but his body was betraying him. The years of wear and tear, the battles fought both inside and outside the ring, were taking their toll. For the first time in the fight, it wasn't just about his opponent, it was about his own limitations. Could he still be the force that once ruled boxing, or had age finally caught up with him?
Pereira saw the opening. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He pressed forward with a relentless flurry of strikes, his fists and legs coming in from every angle. Tyson's head snapped back with each blow, his defenses weakening, but his eyes never lost their fire. It was as though he was fighting not just for victory, but for redemption, a chance to prove that he was more than a man defined by his past. The crowd roared as Tyson somehow managed to keep standing, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. But even Tyson could only take so much, and Pereira was relentless. With each passing second, it became clearer that Pereira was the future of combat sports, while Tyson was a man fighting not just for victory, but for survival. In the midst of the exchange, something unexpected happened. Pereira, perhaps too eager to finish the fight, made a critical mistake. His left leg swept too far, leaving an opening Tyson could not ignore. With a primal roar, Tyson surged forward, his right hand coming in with all the might he could muster. It was a punch born from years of practice, of raw emotion and sheer power. Time seemed to slow as the fist connected with Pereira's chin, sending the younger fighter crashing to the canvas in a flurry of shock and disbelief. The crowd erupted into chaos, unsure whether they had just witnessed the end of an era or the beginning of one. Pereira lay on the ground, his eyes wide in disbelief, as Tyson stood over him, his chest heaving with exertion. The ring was filled with an eerie silence. Had Tyson just done the impossible? Had he truly knocked out one of the most dangerous fighters in the world with a single punch? It was a moment that could define his career, but it also left a bitter taste in the air. Tyson wasn't celebrating. He wasn't basking in the glory of the moment. Instead, his face was full of concern. Pereira wasn't out. He wasn't finished. With a shocking display of strength, the Brazilian slowly began to rise, his eyes never leaving Tyson's. The crowd gasped again, sensing that the fight was far from over. It was as if Pereira had found a new level of determination, something beyond the physical realm. Tyson, for all his power, couldn't help but respect the resilience of his opponent. He had just landed the perfect punch, yet Pereira was getting back up, refusing to be defeated. And in that moment, the stakes were higher than ever. Tyson, the aging legend, was facing the most brutal reality of his career. Pereira was not only a worthy adversary, but he might just be the one who would finally bring the fight to an end. Tyson, still fighting through the pain, tightened his fists and took his stance. The fight was far from over, and every second counted. Would Tyson's experience and raw power be enough to take down a fighter like Pereira, or would the rising star prove too much for the former champion? The arena held its breath as the fighters prepared for the next round. The outcome uncertain, but one thing was clear: whatever happened next would shape the future of combat sports. The bell rang again, the sound cutting through the charged silence of the arena. The fighters were both bloodied and battered, their bodies on the verge of collapse, but neither was willing to yield. Tyson, ever the warrior, had shown the world that despite his age, his spirit remained as fierce as ever. Pereira, on the other hand, had proven that his youth and precision could overcome even the mightiest of opponents, but his resilience was being pushed to the limit. As they faced each other, the atmosphere in the arena was thick with anticipation. It wasn't just a fight anymore, it was a battle for survival, a test of willpower, of who could endure the longest, who had the strength to overcome the other. Tyson's legendary knockout power still echoed in the minds of the crowd, but Pereira's ability to recover and adapt was becoming undeniable. The younger fighter was clearly hurting, but there was a fire in his eyes, a refusal to be outdone. Tyson, sensing his opportunity, moved in with an aggressive onslaught, launching punch after punch, trying to land that one decisive blow. But Pereira, despite the fatigue and bruising, was always a step ahead. His head moved with the fluidity of someone who had lived a lifetime in the ring. Every dodge, every counter-strike felt like it was one beat ahead of Tyson's assault. The crowd could sense it. The fight was slipping away from the former champion. In that fleeting moment, Tyson hesitated, a split second where doubt crept into his mind. It was a natural instinct, something that happens when you've been in the ring for as long as he had. The years, the battles, the toll of time, they all weighed on him now, more than they ever had. And it was in that hesitation that Pereira saw his opening. With a sudden, fluid motion, Pereira closed the distance. His right hand came up in an almost imperceptible arc, and before Tyson could react, the Brazilian's fist found its mark, a crushing hook that landed square on Tyson's jaw. The impact was brutal, sending Tyson's body into a near-fatal spiral. The crowd held their breath as Tyson's legs buckled beneath him, his vision blurring as he tried to maintain his balance. But it was no use. Tyson's knees hit the canvas, and his body, though legendary, could not defy gravity any longer. The referee stepped in, beginning the count. Tyson, ever the warrior, fought with everything he had left to rise, but his body betrayed him. For the first time in his career, Mike Tyson was unable to answer the bell. The crowd erupted into a mixture of shock and awe, not just for the spectacle they had just witnessed, but for the realization that they had seen something incredible unfold. Tyson, the living legend, had finally met his match. But as Pereira raised his arms in victory, the applause echoing throughout the arena, something unexpected happened. Tyson, lying on the canvas, slowly began to push himself up. His body was battered, his face marked with the evidence of the fight, but his eyes burned with something deeper: respect, gratitude, and acceptance. He looked over at Pereira, who was still basking in the glory of his win, and nodded. It wasn't just a nod of acknowledgement for the victory, it was a nod of respect for the fighter who had just given him the fight of his life. As Tyson made his way to his feet, the crowd's applause grew louder. This wasn't just a defeat, it was the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. Tyson had given it everything he had, and despite losing, he walked away with his dignity intact, his legacy forever etched in the hearts of fans worldwide. But Pereira, in that moment, became something more than just the victor. He became the torchbearer of the next generation. The cameras captured the moment as Tyson and Pereira shared a brief exchange of words. What was said between them was private, but the message was clear. Tyson had not only acknowledged Pereira's victory, but had also passed the mantle to the man who would define the future of combat sports. It was a moment that transcended rivalry, that spoke to the heart of every fighter who had ever stepped into the ring. It was the torch being passed. And as the night came to an end, one question lingered in the air: what's next for both men? Tyson had faced one of the greatest challenges of his career and emerged from it with his head held high, proving that no matter how much time passes, the heart of a champion never fades. Pereira had cemented his place as one of the sport's greatest, his victory over Tyson serving as the pinnacle of his career so far. But the journey wasn't over for either of them. Tyson's legacy would continue to inspire, while Pereira's road to becoming a legend in his own right was only just beginning. In the end, it wasn't just about the fight. It was about the respect earned, the legacy built, and the undeniable truth that the world of combat sports is forever changing, one fighter at a time. This fight, this clash of two incredible forces, would be remembered not for who won or lost, but for the story it told, the story of two warriors who gave everything, and in doing so, left a mark on history that would never be erased.